very comfortable with the amount of power. She just barrels into the horse here. Good, clean form in the air.
And the judges barreled into the points. They gave her a 9.775 for that first vault, and that's got to really bolster her confidence as she heads down the runway for vault number 2. Now remember, this is a young lady who on ESPN won the mixed pairs competition. She was teamed up with Li Jing from China. A real surprise tandem that came out on top. But she's proving now that was no fluke.
She'll do the same vault. There it is.
Wow.
That was the landing she was looking for. Kevin Brown is pleased with that.
And he should be.
It's an interesting story. You know, she's been living up in the Browns Gymnastics Academy up in Altamont Springs, Florida. She's up from North Lauderdale. She's been living with the Browns for the last year. Then her mother decided she's going to quit her job as a computer programmer and move up there with her because she really wants to make a strong bid to be a significant member of the U.S. team. And she feels that her mother needs to be there to support her in this effort.
Right now, she's doing quite well, though, 9.85. And if Mom comes along, maybe those scores will even get higher. So after one rotation, Wendy Bruce leads Robin Richter by a .65 margin. The men are moving now to their second event, which is the pommel horse. You are looking at Mike Williams. And Mike Williams, you recall, in his first event, floor exercise, received a 9.5 to give him a 1/10 of 1 point advantage over Scott Burr.
Mike has such an incredible attitude. He said this is the hardest event for him, but it's his favorite. Because it's the hardest, he loves the challenge, and it certainly is an event that is quite different from any of the others.
Hey, this is the event in this format that has really been breaking a lot of gymnasts.
Oh, wow, he almost blew it right at the beginning, but he really pulled it out. He's having a lot of trouble with form. Typical of the Mike Williams style, though, he's doing a lot of good tricks. Hit a very good move there in the middle, good scissor work with a full turn. He doesn't quite have the elevation above the horse that you'd like to see. A little sloppy in the form and a little choppy in the rhythm.
But he stayed on.
He's pretty pleased with that because he got off to a rough start, and it could have been much worse because he almost missed the first move.
And we've seen so many gymnasts do that. They get off to a bad start and it just goes downhill, but he hung on.
He does a backmore here, looks pretty good, and then he bends his arm, and this guy is strong because I can't tell you how hard it is to continue to swing in a circle when your arms are bent like that. He picked up the momentum and continued very nicely. He does flares down to the end and loops around. He's going to go up to a handstand and try and pirouette off, and he has a little trouble here, but he makes it.
Mike Williams waiting for his score on the pommel horse. Gets a 9.05. Now that might make a little room for Scott Burr to regain that 1/10 of a point he lost to him on floor exercise. Scott Burr, again, from Richmond, Indiana, now living in Utah because he's training at Brigham Young University, although his family is in California. Began the sport in 1982. A late bloomer, I guess you could call him.
Sure has a varied group of hobbies. He's into art, nutrition, and scuba diving.
That is diverse.
Flares on the end. He's very quick. I like this aggressive style. Whoa!
Oh.
Amazing. We've seen so many guys have trouble on the pommel horse here. He was doing a really very difficult series of moves in the flared position, traveling across the horse.
He seemed to be working so well, too. I didn't really see a reason for him to fall off.
Well, this has been an inconsistent event for him. He's had plenty of trouble here in the past. He swings a little too fast and almost out of control. That kind of style can be very exciting. As you can see, he's very explosive. But it's also the kind of style that can throw you off on your feet before you know what happened.
Now let's take a look at the beginning where he fell off and see why it happened.
Now he starts just ripping into these flares. travels across the horse nose. He's not using the pommels. I mean, this is a great mount. He gets a little too far forward, and he's pretty strong, but not strong enough to pull that back into control. At the end, though, he picked back up into these really very aggressive flares, full turn off, and a good finish. Too bad he had problems early on.
If he could have stuck it, that's a very impressive routine, but I think you're right. He has to slow it down just a little bit. Again, the score he wants to beat is 9.05. That is what Mike Williams attained on the pommel horse with the fall. I don't think he'll be able to do that. Although in terms of originality, I really liked the routine. Unfortunately, the judges really penalized him for the fall. 7.60, the score for Scott Burr on the pommel horse. Mike Williams has a lead after 2.
Miss Caitlin Phillips demonstrates the loading of the new Fuji Discovery 60 compact camera. As with most Fuji cameras, the Discovery 60 comes complete with autofocus, auto flash, and auto wind. And one more feature that you can't get on any
rotations for the women at the 1989 U.S. Gymnastics Challenge, and after 1 rotation, our leader is Wendy Burr, a .65 margin over Robin Richter. On the men's side, they've rotated twice, and right now it is Mike Williams who's on top of Scott Burr by a 1.55 margin. The men have now moved to their 3rd apparatus, and that is the still rings, and you are looking at Scott Burr.
This is one of Scott's best events. In fact, this year in Brussels, he won the rings in the 4th International Belgium Gymnastics competition. He was 5th in the all-around there, but this is really where he made a name for himself on the international level. On the rings. Watch his strength. Kip to a straddle plunge. To a leg together plunge. Much more difficult. Back roll around to cross. Really nice, slow moving strength combination. Now he's certainly fulfilled the requirement of strength in this exercise. Now the judges need to see him swing. All right, a double back within the rings. It's called a gutsigi, invented by a Hungarian gymnast. And a full twisting double dismount. Good exercise.
The gutsigi certainly is very difficult. Did he show enough swinging elements?
It seemed to me like he could have used another giant swing, either forward or backward, because he had good strength, but it was a little bit of a lopsided routine. This is a great skill, but he needs more than just that. He did 2 giants out of it, or dislocate and a giant right through to the handstand. He could have shown the judges some forward swinging elements, perhaps a front swinging giant, but he finished with a nice dismount, a full twisting double in the tucked position.
9.65.
And the score for Scott Burr, 9.65. Certainly what he did very well. And now Mike Williams, who has a 1.55 lead, is getting ready to go up on the rings. Let's talk about what they wear on their hands when they're on the still rings.
They're using a leather strap that's wrapped around the wrist. You can see that red strap is a piece of Velcro. The strap is longer than your fingers, and it loops back around, and there's a dowel rod extended down there at the end of your fingers. You can see that dowel rod right under his fingernails. And you use that kind of like a hook. It's a little bit like a meat hook. You can really improve your grip by using the dowel rod as a hook around the rings. And it's improved the event a great deal, because when you know you have that kind of confidence in the grip, you can do some major swinging elements and not have to worry that you're going to fly off. He's having some trouble here.
You can see the rings moving.
Plus, the whole opening sequence was a little sloppy. He wasn't precise on the movements. There's a front giant. He's a little tight in the shoulders. He didn't hold that handstand. Yeah. This is going to be a rough score, because he did tried to do a lot of skills, but didn't complete very many of them. He might open the door for Scott Burr to get back in the competition here, because that's going to have to be a low score, I'm afraid, although he was attempting some good moves. He had some rough times here. He opens with a pull to inverted hang. This is a kip to an L. Now he's going to press to a handstand here. Goes down for an inverted cross, loses control, bails out and goes to a whippet. He was supposed to go to a plunge there. I mean, there were about 3 tricks in a row that he really had some trouble on. This is the front giant. He tries to hit the top on the handstand, but doesn't quite hold it and bails right out and goes for the dismount.
He has a 1.55 lead over Scott Burr, but this is going to narrow it certainly. 8.65. Now remember, Scott Burr received a 9.65, and that just about negates one complete point, so the difference between them has now been reduced from 1.55 to just 0.55. Just over a half a point separates these two. The second event for the women is now the uneven parallel bars, and we're looking at Wendy Bruce. She is our leader in this rotation over Robin Richter by a 0.65 margin.
She says this is her favorite event. Straddled over to the high bar. Here we go. Oh, what a really high reverse hecht. Good technique. Very powerful giant. Back turn to a Jaeger. She traverses to the lower bar. Free hip pirouette. She has to show skills on both bars and change of direction as she has done. Boy, she really cranks these giants. Look at the power. Easy tuck double dismount.
Great performance by Wendy Bruce. Remember, she had that tremendous vault in her first rotation, receiving a 9.85. She's given us another solid performance on the unevens.
This is great stuff right here. Look at the height and the rotation as she easily makes that reverse hecht.
It's too bad the judges can't see this slow motion replay. It really shows how well she performs these
And
moves.
watch, she cranks this giant over with tremendous power. Pops up an easy tuck double. No problem.
She is on tonight. Trains in Altamont Springs, Florida. You're looking at Kevin Brown. He's got to be happy with what she's doing tonight.
Well, also his other star is Brandy Johnson, so he's got a good little program down there at Brown's Gymnastics Academy.
You know, we talked about the 1989 Belgium Gym Masters. She finished second in the all-around, won every event but balance beam, and on balance beam, she got a second place finish. 9.625, the score for Wendy Bruce. And this is Robin Richter. In the vault, she received a 9.20. This is now her second event.
I have seen her do some incredible bar routines. Let's see if she can pull one off today. Free hip half turn to a giant. There's the reverse hecht, nicely done. Battle back to the low bar to a handstand. It's a good combination. Last right back to the top. Good giant. Two giants. Full turn over the top, right to a tuck to. Oh!
What a beautiful routine.
I know that feeling when it's going just right and you have trouble on the dismount. Boy, that was beautiful to that point, too. This is the reverse hecht. It's straddled backward over the bar. No problem. Just where she wanted to be. Now watch this straddle back. She used that to traverse to the low bar and set up the rest of her routine. Here's the giant to the full turn over the top, right to the tuck double. She thinks she's a little lower. I think she pulls it around farther than she needs to. She was really high. Once again, you can see here the giant, full turn, good combination, right to the tuck double.
Tough break for Robin Richter. And the score she receives for that uneven parallel bar performance, which was flawless till the finish, 9.225 is her score. She still trails Wendy Bruce. Scott Burr against Mike Williams.